Hello everyone. So this day we are tackled about the competency-based assessment one. So which is coupled questions. So question number one: how does competency-based learning contribute to the success of teachers' teaching process? So my answer is the teachers in competency-based learning is an approach to education that focuses on the students' demonstration of desired learning outcomes, central to the learning process. It is concerned chiefly with students' progression through curriculum at their own pace, shape, or etc. As competencies are proven, students continue to progress. It is similar to mastery-based learning, with the primary difference being that competency-based learning often focuses on observable skills or competencies, while mastery learning may be an academic as likely to focus on concepts as skills. It's contribute that teachers how the students mastering different areas of classification in the different subjects they were taken. So the teachers taught while the students inside the classroom will construct the ideas, and yet a key characteristic of this type of learning is its focus on mastery. In other learning models, students are exposed to content, whether skills or concept over time, and success in uh, measured summatively, and competencies based learning system. Students are not allowed to continue until they have demonstrated or demonstrate mastery of the identified competencies or etc. Or example, the desired learning outcomes to be demonstrated in this way. The definition of competencies-based learning is closely tied to mastery learning. So question number two. Can you give one scenario where you can apply competency-based approach in your ICT class? So my approach on this question is yes. So the best example of scenario in ICT class that is connected to competency-based approach is like a student must be performed parts computer at the same time master to install the very basic part of the computer. Example, installing CPU. First, keep the CPU where it is sit tight. Then don't take your CPU out of the box just yet. Or the second one is really your motherboard. Not going to assume you're putting your new CPU into new motherboard, but that would be the simplest scenario. Then third, line up your CPU and note when holding your CPU, it's best practice to only touch the sides, and touching the underside or the metal lid can be or can get undesirable residue that may affect performance. And fourth, set the CPU into its socket, assuming you are correctly lined up your CPU with the socket, and it should drop right into place. And last but not the least, close the retention arm with your CPU properly seated in the socket, where you should be able to push down the retention arm with ease, uh, if it's an Intel CPU. So note, if it is Intel CPU, lower the bracket first and insert student. In this example, uh, insert the student must allows to advance based on their ability to master a skill or the competency at their own pace regardless of environment. So question number three. So being a student or a teacher rather, what are the things that you need to do if a student cannot demonstrate a task or competency? So my response of this question is There are certain things to be considered to helping student amidst here or his competencies by not doing well. So first, teachers provide instant or ongoing feedback in an age where social media continues to reign supreme. Providing students with the ability to give instant and meaningful feedback about their learning can greatly increase motivation and improve achievement. And second, personalize their learning. We've all heard it before. One size fits all, it's no longer affected and it's 21st century classroom. So this is the special true for those who are struggling academically. With an increasingly diverse learning population, students expect and deserve more uh, get or student-centered lesson plans to meet individual needs and learning styles. So third step is get student input on how they want to learn. Getting students involved in feedback regularly can help educators understand how well students are comprehending or comprehend the course material, and it can also give unique insights into what teaching methods are affected and where they need to be adjusted. So that's one of the key. So next questions, question number 4. How CBA or competency-based education diverse to outcome-based education. So my approach of this is a CBE or competency-based education is a framework for teaching and assessment of learning. It is called or also called that is described as a type of education based on predetermined or determined competencies, which focuses on outcomes and real-world performance, allows students to advance based on their ability to master skills or competency at their own pace regardless of environment. So this method is tailored or to meet different learning abilities and can lead to more efficient student outcomes, while outcome-based education or outcomes-based education or OBE, also known as standards-based education, is an educational theory that bases each part of educational system around goals or outcomes. So by the end of education experience, each student should have achieved the goal. There is no single specified style of teaching or assessment in OBE or outcomes-based education. Instead, classes, opportunities, and assessments should all help students achieve the specified outcomes. So the role of the faculty adapts into instructor or trainer, facilitator, and or mentor based the outcomes targeted. So that's it. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 5. So based on your discussion, explain in your own how CBDI diverse to the traditional education in terms of grading system structure and its learning outcomes. So reminisce or back to my knowledge about the CBA or competency based education is different by the traditional settings of education in terms of grading system, structure, and learning outcomes. Why? So first and foremost, CBA entails the focus on content mastery rather than mere content completion. Also, it was focused on meaningful assessment, feedback, and it and is intense data driven. So, example, competencies includes the cognitive skills of critical thinking, problem solving, while talking to traditional education in terms in grading system, The teacher always laid on by the performance of students like he or she has submitted projects or else he or she fluently memorized the table of contents and other activities. And the structure of the learning or are obviously poor or lack of knowledge because teachers is depending students' performance only not to the system and the education. The teacher are may facilitator to guide students' progress in our outside the school or outside the school. So in conclude, the CB is very different to the traditional education grading system, not only by the teacher but also the students' progression. So the last questions about this competency-based learning is explain the passage by Rothstein, where competencies-based learning focuses on the mastery skills by articulating clear learning outcomes and ensuring that the students are uh, supported to achieve their outcomes. Okay, so from this quote, I meant like competencies based learning is a system of instruction, assessment, grading, and academic reporting that are based on students demonstrating that they have learned the knowledge and skills they are expected to learn as they progress through their education. For example, in public schools, competency-based system use state learning standards for determine academic expectations and define competencies or proficiencies in a given course, a subject area, or grade level, although other sets of standards may also be used, including the standards developed by districts and schools or by subjects area organization. The general goal of the competence-based learning is to ensure that the students are acquiring the knowledge and skills that are deemed to be essential to success in school, higher educations, early careers, and adult life. If students fail to meet uh, expected learning standards, they typically receive additional instructions or instructions practice, time, and academic support to help them achieve competencies to meet the expected standards. So that's all on my report. So thank you, ma'am. God bless.